It's time for another episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're the Kadok to your Gadok. Very similar. We got a matching kind of color scheme. Not matching, but the colors go well together. We're one and the same. We're a family member, as it were, and we're gonna make you feel like a damn queen. A Borok queen. Kadok and Gadok. You and me, together in this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. And today, Kadok and Gadok are very relatable in this because we're going to be talking about non-humanoid related MOCs. What does that mean? What is a non-humanoid that you speak of? Well, a non-humanoid kind of character is something that isn't humanoid. Thank you and good night. Don't you hate it when you look up stuff in the dictionary it says that? Well, I'm not going to be that person. So, let me go to Uncle Wikipedia here. And I'm going to show you what the definition of humanoid is so that we can then know what non-humanoid is. So what is it to be humanoid? According to Wikipedia, a humanoid is something that has an appearance resembling a human without actually being one. And this kind of dates back to, it was used by the 20th century in the real world, of course, not in the Bionicle universe. And the term came to describe fossils which were morphologically similar but not identical to a human skeleton. So essentially, for something to be humanoid, it needs to, for the most part, resemble the basic shape or bone structure of a human. For it to be non-humanoid, it doesn't represent or show that, you know? So it's not strictly speaking like they have to be human to be humanoid. You know, something like a Pokemon, like Gardevoir, who is very human-like in shape, is a humanoid character. But then, you know, you've got something like Aerodactyl, who is not humanoid. He is non-humanoid because he does not represent or show that human-like aesthetic or look. So hopefully that made a bit of sense there. Hopefully. If not, I'm going to show you 10 non-humanoid MOCs today. That's right, 10. And so taking a look at those, you should get a better picture on what it means to be non-humanoid. Also, quickly, before we begin, wanted to give a quick shout out to one of our patrons, which is Bricks for Days. Thank you so much, Bricks for Days, for joining Patron. I very much appreciate that. And if that's something you, the listeners, would like to consider, be sure to check the links in the description below for that. But again, thank you so much, Bricks for Days. Really appreciate your patronage. Thank you so much. So let's begin. The first MOC we've got today is by Buttloaf. What a weird but beautiful name, Buttloaf. All right. Production error. This email doesn't give the name of the MOC. So we're going to go to Buttloaf's Instagram, as you can do if you check the links in the description below. You'll be able to find links to all the MOCs that we featured today, so be sure to check out some of their stuff. So I'm on Buttloaf's Instagram. He says, though taken by many as a harbinger of demonic doom, all the big Grunt really wants was a hug. Well, that's what the description on the Instagram says, so I'm going to assume it is Big Grunt. There you go. This is Big Grunt by Buttloaf. Awesome MOC. This is really cool. So why is it a non-humanoid? Well, I would say this is a little bit more of a subtle humanoid because it still has a rough kind of basic shape of a human, but the legs are very different. They're a digigrade chicken-like leg design, which is not something you typically see on a humanoid. So in that sense, it is not a humanoid. Of course, the body, by body I mean sort of the chest and the arms, those to some degree are fairly humanoid. Of course, he's got a gun on his arm, which, you know, typically people aren't born with guns on their arms. He also has a tail and those large horns and big old teeth and stuff on his mouth. That's not very humanoid. So it's non-humanoid in that regard. And like I said, it's a bit more subtle in this sense, so that's always something you can do on a character, you know, is if you want it to be non-humanoid, you can just sort of subtly change things up and make it just that much more unique and that much more different. And why would we want to do that? Well, sometimes it can just be more fun, you know? Sometimes just building your typical Toa that's this boring, normal old humanoid is something you've maybe done all your life. It's just, everyone does it. It's simple and it's easy. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. If you want to do that, great. But maybe you want to branch out, try some new stuff, really expand the way you build, doing some brand new things that you've never tried before. That could be something fun. Or you want to match a specific aesthetic from something that's inspired you from a movie or TV show or video game, and going a non-humanoid route is definitely the way to go to perfectly match that, or to get the essence of it because you want to capture elements of that in the MOC that you're creating. Or maybe you're somebody who wants to get a lot of likes on social media, and so you want to make a MOC that is distinctly different. Well, building a typical old humanoid won't always be distinctly different. Of course, depends how you do it. But branching off in some non-humanoid directions will definitely attract the attention of others and maybe get you a few likes or whatever, if that's your cup of tea. It might not be. But that's the pros and cons of a non-humanoid MOC. But now let's get back to this example of a non-humanoid MOC. It's super cool. The color layering on this is awesome. It's distinctly having it so that the dark red appears to be his skin, which is poking out on the arms and the head, and then he appears to be wearing some sort of gunmetal armor over the top of that. Really great example of color layering there. Works really, really well. Some beautiful smooth textures throughout this. I like that the textures subtly change in the areas where there is silver on the lower legs there. Kind of looks like he's got some robotic enhancements of some kind. It's unique, it's different, it's cool. And honestly, I think one of my favorite parts of this mock kind of goes hand in hand. The awesome gun arm here using one of the speaker pieces that came on Stringer from the Breakout Wave, I believe it was. It was such a weird and distinct piece. It looked like an amp, it looked like a speaker of some kind. It was great, and just a weird and exclusive, cool, unique part, and it's been used here to form a gun. And I was actually speaking to Buttloaf in the voice chat over on the Discord server, which was a great fun conversation, and he was saying that that system dish piece actually just fits in nicely. If you whack it a little bit or you kind of play with it a bit too much, it can fall out, but it does nicely insert itself, which I did not know. So if you have those Stringer speaker pieces, there you go, there's a fun thing you can do with them. And branching off of that, my other sort of favorite part of this mock is that dish piece is that trans neon green, and it kind of flows very well with the kind of green tubing that is feeding all around his torso there. It's this beautiful little pop of green in there. It's just a little something something. It's a bit more unique, a bit more special and different, and it works really well. So I quite like that, to be honest with you. It's a beautiful pop of color there that does a lot for the mock. Really cool. So nice work, Buttloaf. Good job. Let's move on to the next mock by Sergei Rakamenov. And this is Rahi Beast's Ulysal Crab. And this, I believe, was made for some sort of collab. I think this was the crab collab. My favorite word, the crab collab. This is a brilliant crab. Really, really cool. Honestly, looking at this, I want to go build a crab now. Like, I'm kind of semi-serious. You're making me want to build some Rahi. I love it. Of course, this is a great example of being non-humanoid because a lot of the creatures out there in the world, for the most part, are non-humanoid because they're not humans, they're crabs or other creatures and animals. So that is always a great example of a way to build a non-humanoid character. If you're just going off of that premise and you want to build something, there's a great way to do it. So yeah, there's a really cool non-humanoid mock. What do we love about it? I love the eye stalks on this, using those ball joints there as eyes, big brown cute little eyes like Baby Yoda, very nice. But also the eye stalks just simply being those pin pieces in blue there, just helps you get a bit of height there, ties in nicely with the rest of the mock texture-wise and look-wise. It's great and looks very realistic to the real thing. The beautiful colors too, very striking bold colors that almost kind of transition nicely. You get that beautiful striking blue that transitions into that kind of medium blue there. It then transitions into the yellow. It's all blocked out nicely as well. Just really, really cool to see. And the claws, using some of the weapon pieces that came with the Bionicle system playsets. Those pieces work very well for claws. They, in fact, look like crab claws. So really, really great part use. And just a beautiful looking crab. Good job on this crab collab. I didn't need to say crab collab again. And I didn't need to bring it up again. But I just wanted to say crab collab again, because it's a fun word. If you're sitting at home and you're bored in quarantine and you're like, what should I do to make myself feel a little bit more entertained? You need to just sit there, look at your Lego, and say the words crab collab. And maybe say it 3 more times. Crab collab, and crab collab. Because it just makes me smile. And hopefully it'll make you smile too. All right, yeah. So now that we've had that, we've got that out of our system, let's move on to the next mock. So good job, Sergey. This next mock is called I messed it up. This mock is called Big Brain, and it's by Fibo. Awesome. It's a fun little mock here, and it uses a piece, a really obscure and weird piece, but in a cool way. So some of you might remember some of the Simpsons Lego sets. You might remember the collectible minifigure series system wave. And of course, you got Patty and her sister Selma as well. This is Patty's minifigure head that has been used here to make the big brain on this mock, Big Brain. What a great part use. What a great, awesome part use. That headpiece really does look like a brain. Very much so. I initially thought it was just one of the typical minifigure afro pieces, but then did realize that it was this minifigure head here. So you could also, if you've got some afro pieces lying around, maybe use those. Those could work well for a brain, but just the texture on this very much does give that kind of brain aesthetic, especially the colors too. So a really great use of a part that's difficult to use, because those Simpson headpieces just don't really work well with minifigures. They kind of just an awkward kind of outlier, some of those system pieces there, those Simpson minifigure heads. So they can be difficult to use. So when you can find a use for them, that's just satisfying, isn't it? So super cool. Love these beautiful glowing eyes too. Really makes this mock look kind of cute and adorable. And of course, we've got this tripod design here for the leg design, giving it this sort of like 3-footed claw look. Very much non-humanoid, because, that's not what a human looks like at all. So it's a very, very nice little design there on this very simple, sweet, small little mock. But hey, nothing wrong with it being that. It's still got a really cool part use on it, a very nice sort of frame and structure to it, and just looks cool. So yeah, really, really nicely done here. A very great little mock here. You've done a good job. Let's move on to the next one. This is by Gary. I just love it when you have people on the show who are like, my name is Dark Lord Edge 64, and then you got people like Gary. That's just I like that too, That's cool. But this is by Gary. I'm not mocking your name, by the way. Gary's a great name, but I just love the contrast of just like versus, oh hi, my name's John. Anyway, this is by Gary, and this is his mock. Antares and Therese, and this is his mock. And it's definitely a great example of being non-humanoid because it has multiple legs, a tail, claws, and wheels. Very much a strong departure from humans. It is this sort of beautiful mishmash of all sorts of different things with wheels, a tail, claws, multiple different legs. But of course is very much inspired by a scorpion, which I think is a good example here because obviously it does take inspiration from a scorpion, but that's also something you could do, is to kind of do a bit of a mishmash of things. Take two animals you like. You could take the fins from a fish, the tail from a stingray, and the legs from a spider and put it all in one mock and make it work because it's your imagination and you can do whatever you want. What a cool and funky idea. Why not? Which is one of the beautiful things you can do with non-humanoid mocks. So why not do it? It's cool. It works, Or you do like this mock as well and just base a mock off of a scorpion, and you can kind of riff off of that as well, give them, wheels for feet, or, really go ham and put sort of like computer elements in it, or, go over the top with weapons or something. The world's your oyster, or the world is your scorpion, as it were. Yes. So, a really, really cool mock here. Again, the feet for wheels idea is awesome. The fact that they kind of flip up so that he can have like wheels for feet, or that they kind of fold down so he can kind of sort of stamp around on the ground there. That's really clever. That's really cool. What a clever and great design. And I also love the scorpion tail on this mock and how he's used those tail pieces at the very tip of it to form that kind of scorpion claw. Just the fact that they're sort of upside down like that very much looks like how, the stinger on a scorpion tail actually looks. Very simple in construction, just placing those pieces upside down like that. But it matches the source material really well. It's the little things, It's always the little things that can make a mock just look that much cooler. So, yeah, there's some pretty cool ideas there. Of course, as well, this mock is built through the digital plane, whether that's through Studio, LDraw, LDD, and all those plethora of different programs there. That's always an option you can do. And you can do some cool stuff where you can get pieces in colors they don't exist in, and really let your imagination run wild. So you could do something like that if that's your cup of tea. If not, that's fine too. So really, really cool. Really nicely done. Let's move on to the next mock. This is by Shadow Storm, and this is called the Ravenclaw. Pretty cool. One thing I really like about this, it uses that Chima vulture head. And I've said multiple times before on multiple different episodes, always a great thing to use. Those are always really cool pieces. But what a good starting point. Why not grab one of the weird and obscure masks that you've got, or some of the Chima heads that are more animalistic in look, or one of the cool custom heads that you've built that is just a massive departure from a more human-looking face, and do exactly this. Use it as the impetus for a really cool mock. What a cool idea. I personally think that's a brilliant starting point, is to, begin with, one part, whether it's the head, or maybe you come up with you find a cool claw piece and you go, I could build like a raven with this claw piece or something. Great idea. Really, really great idea. So that's certainly something that you could look into for sure, is to let one or two pieces kind of form the basis of your non-humanoid mock and really focus on some of those weirder, more obscure pieces that you could do crazy stuff with on a non-humanoid mock. It's cool. That's the beauty of a non-humanoid mock. You can really think outside the boundaries. You don't have to be limited to a typical humanoid frame. You can give them wings. You can give them multiple arms, like this mock here. Claws, spikes everywhere. All sorts of cool stuff. And a lot of that this mock has too. I love the spikes around the neck. I love that this mock has those digigrade leg designs there. Works very well, looks very cool, gives it this cool, hunched, more evil, sinister look. And he has multiple arms as well that kind of appear to be additional sort of weapons there. But it could also be wings as well, of course. And, you know, wings are definitely a non-humanoid feature. Humans don't have wings. And if they do, they've been hiding that from me. I've wanted to fly for so long now. But there you go. It's a really cool, unique design for sure. Next mock. This is by Kraken Bricks, and it is called Serpent Elementalis. Great idea. Really simple execution. And I love that. Great concept. Just to get a whole bunch of these different protector masks here, whether he went on Bricklink and bought some in bulk, or he just invested in a whole bunch of the protector sets and just acquired a bunch of those masks. However he came across those masks. Maybe a few shady black market deals. I doubt it. I doubt that Kraken Bricks would do that. But, you know, however you come across a plethora of different masks, why not put them to good use like this and get this beautiful texture where he's simply attached the masks onto a big line of smaller Hero Factory bone pieces like that. They've just attached on with friction like that, and it forms this beautiful flowing texture of these multiple different repeated pieces. And it looks like a snake body, really. Looks very realistic. It looks awesome. And these colors flow very nicely into each other, and it very much kind of conveys the concept that's embodied in the name. It is this serpent that has power over multiple elements, and that's reflected in its body, and that's super cool. Love that idea. And of course, it's a snake. That's very much non-humanoid. Great. Very cool. Great head design, great concept, and nothing, of course, wrong with just repeating a bunch of pieces to get a beautiful texture like this. And hey, such a simple execution, not using a huge amount of pieces, but it works and it looks cool. Awesome. On to the next mock now. This is by That One T-Foal. Yeah, you know that one T-Foal. That's his actual name. I'm not making that up. And this is called Dragonfly. This is a bit more of a system-based mock, but there's some really cool stuff going on here you could easily apply to a Bionicle mock, so I wanted to cover it for show. The eye design on this, super cool. Taking some of the old little antenna pieces there, taking out the actual antenna bit, and just getting the base there, and it looks like a pupil for an eye. Brilliant design. Works super well here. Really makes this Dragonfly look menacing and evil. We take a look at the legs on this, using a few mixel joints to connect a lot of it. But just the kind of angle of all of those different claw pieces, the curve of those legs, as it were, looks so bug-like and so menacing. You just imagine sort of fingers and claws and things kind of walking up and down the wall or crawling on your skin, and it just gets, you know, it's all creepy and weird. It's cool. And it's fitting of what this bug appears to be communicating for me, and I love that. It's a really great design for it. And, you know, playing with all those different swords and spikes and other different system pieces, lots of S's, then you can really achieve this creepy, crawly bug effect like this. And that's very effectively achieved by just putting a lot of different swords and spikes and things on this mock. It's cool. I love, too, the wing elements that are used here as well from some of the more recent Ninjago dragons. Great pieces and a great way of achieving a very effective wing design and not really breaking the bank and using a huge amount of pieces. And hey, if you've acquired any of those Ninjago dragons, then you can easily put them to good use on a mock that needs wings. And ironically, too, that sail wing cloth, not really a sail, but that plastic wing element there that comes on a Ninjago dragon, fits a bug look very well, surprisingly. I would have thought, you know, maybe it would have worked better on a dragon, but actually works flawlessly here on this Dragonfly. Maybe that's why it works so well, because it's a dragonfly and not just a typical bug. There you go. But it's cool. It's really cool. Some great usages of a whole bunch of system pieces that could easily be used and retranslated into a Bionicle mock, and a great example of just taking a bug from the real world and building it in Bionicle, and it's a great example of a non-humanoid character. So there you go. Let's move on to the next one here. This is by Patron, and this one is called BUGFORCE Artillery Arachnid. So I think this is a part of a collab where basically these guys all built bugs that were a part of some sort of militia, and that's cool. So yeah, a bug with a cannon. What a great idea, and what a totally awesome non-humanoid mock. You know, one, it's a bug, so it's not very humanoid, and two, it has a gun on it that's growing out of its butt. It's a butt cannon, as it were. What a great idea. So easily something you could do, and also what a great idea to do something exactly like that, to put a gun on a bug. Cool concept, and a cool way of kind of making this bug look a little bit more, mechanical. You kind of take a look at the mouth. It sort of kind of almost looks like maybe like the eyes on a transformer, like it's this long sort of line over the eyes, and that's its eyes. And it's a little bit more robotic here, so it kind of doesn't need to have this super defined head. It's just sort of a viewing area, as it were. Works well. I also love, the leg design, very simple here, being very inspired by spiders, and also having it finish off with tires there. Just a great way to sort of work that transition from the body into the legs, just to put the tire in between it to have it flow a bit more nicely. That's really cool. And really cool execution, too, of having this little system spaceship thing on fire underneath this spider here. That looks awesome, and really helps with the presentation. Makes this mock look a little bit more menacing, like it shot something down. It's pretty cool. Very nicely done. A very cool example of a non-humanoid mock. And let's move on to the next mock by Mischief, and this is called Orakuto. Now, this one might be a bit of a push as a non-humanoid mock, because it kind of is a little bit humanoid to some degree. I mean, humans don't really have very large heads like that, and our legs don't really look like that, specifically on the feet and stuff, But it is still fairly humanoid in shape for the most part, right? But I still wanted to include this just because maybe you're looking at this and you're like, I don't know if I want to build, that far out of the typical humanoid look. I like building humanoid characters. Well, can you still take elements from being non-humanoid and put it into a humanoid character? So, taking an element like the head and making it far larger than normal, slightly changing up the feet, or maybe slightly changing up the torso, or adding a little thing or two here and there that is a bit of a departure from the typical blank vanilla human, Something you could do. Just little subtle changes that could go a long way. This is a good example of that for sure, Great use of a whole bunch of different system pieces here, specifically some weird ones like some larger cone pieces, and also a really cool use of system pieces on the weapon here. It's a great way to achieve a very thin, small weapon, to use some lightsaber rods and different lightsaber hilts and things there to form the base of that staff there. It's a nice idea. A great way of building a bit more of a thin weapon. Pretty cool. So a few concepts I wanted to touch on this one. Really cool mock. Nicely done. Last one now is a beauty. It's by Buffoon, and it's called Hercules. Yes, pretty cool. So it's obviously inspired by a Hercules beetle, and it's a bit more of sort of menacing and scary and awesome. Love the big old horn that's coming out of its head there. That looks great. All those trans neon green highlights using a lot of those new Ninjago weapons. That's a brilliant little detail and a nice pop of color as well. The use of the Gadunka headpieces there, repeating them as well, really makes it look like the sort of exoskeleton of a bug. Beautiful texture on there, really effectively matches that kind of beetle-like exoskeleton bug look. What a great way to use those parts, and a great way to repeat those parts to really continue across that texture. And they've been partnered well with all of those other sort of bluish glow-in-the-dark pieces as well. That's awesome. Those Ant-Man, Anthony wing pieces as well being used here. They're very bug-like because, the set that was an actual bug, it was an ant sort of thing. So it worked well. And just an overall beautiful, menacing look to this mock. It's big, it's in charge, it's powerful, it just looks super cool. A lot to love about it, and definitely another great way of, taking and designing a non-humanoid character is to take an animal, take a bug, take a creature, like a Hercules beetle like this, and then almost put it on steroids. Give it like muscles, essentially, multiple arms, strong legs, big old wings, a giant horn now, and translating it into a much more scary, large, and imposing version that is still non-humanoid there. Great idea. Great idea. So that has been 10 non-humanoid mocks. I hope you enjoyed this episode today. I sure enjoyed making it. And if you're like, man, I'd love to see one of my mocks appear on the Bionicle Inspiration series, you can do so through the email you're currently seeing on your screen right now. Send me as many images or as few images as you want, as much or as little as a description as you want in the email, and then send it to me, and I will put that mock in an episode sometime in the near but distant future. But of course, bear in mind, I have a whole bunch of submissions to work through, so your patience is key, as I got to work through all that sort of stuff there. But really, I just kind of go through and I pick what works for the episode. So you could submit something today and it appears tomorrow, or you could submit something and you're going to have to wait, a month or two or something. It all depends on how well it fits into a theme or how easily it is I can talk about it. But don't be afraid to submit, and don't be discouraged. I promise you one day it'll appear on the show. I will do whatever is in my power to make it so. Additionally, be sure to check the links in the description below to the MOCs that you saw in today's episode, because these guys are some pretty good builders, my boy, and it would be good to check out some of the other stuff they've done, because they're talented and they deserve some more love, and you can give that to them by checking out the links in the description. And speaking of links in the description, you can check out the links to my social media. I'm Ben Cossy in all places, including Instagram, Flickr, and a whole bunch of other places. You can check that out below, and you can see me posting some cool Lego pictures. And you can also check out my Patreon page, where we've recently hit one of our goals, and I will be releasing for patrons only a Bionicle audiobook of some cool Bionicle books. I'll be recording those in the near but distant future, and doing my best to really make those some cool videos. But yeah, they'll only be available for patrons. So if that's something that appeals to you and you would like to hear me reading some Bionicle, or you'd like to have access to the Patreon exclusive podcasts or just some other interesting tidbits and behind the scenes things from me, you can always go and check that out too. But that has been it for today's episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys, happy building, bye for now.